Yeah. Jaya Radha Madhava Jaya Kunda Bihari Tiravanachari Jaya Kunda Vihari Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Jaya Prabhupada Jaya Prabhupada Jaya Prabhupada Srila Prabhupada Jaya Prabhupada Jaya Prabhupada Jaya Prabhupada Srila Prabhupada Prabhupada ki jai. Singade Bhagavan ki jai. Okay. Okay. Hare Krishna. Good evening. Today we're giving Bhagavad Gita class from chapter 13, entitled Nature, the Enjoyer and Consciousness. Okay, and text 18. Just need to follow. Okay. I just want to ask for blessings from all the Vaishnavas that I can say something meaningful for myself and something meaningful for everyone who's listening. Yeah, okay. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Okay, so if you can, I will try to say the verse and you can repeat after me. Jyoti samapita jyotish. Tamasa paramuchyate. Jnanam gyayam jnanagamyam. Hridi sarvasya vishtitam. Jyoti samapita jyotish. Tamasa paramuchyate. Jnanam gyayam jnanagamyam. Hridi sarvasya vishtitam. Jyotishamapi tajyotish. Tamasa paramuchyate. Jnanam gyayam jnanagamyam. Hridi sarvasya vishtitam. Anyone wants to repeat? Jyotisham apitaj jyotish. Mataji's mic. Vishtitam. Okay. Jyotisham apitaj jyotish. Jnanam okamyam. Hridi sarvasya vishtitam. Okay, word for word translation. Jyotisham in all luminous objects. Api, also. Tat, that. Jyoti, the source of light. Tamasa, the darkness. Param, beyond. Uchyate is said. Jnanam, knowledge. Gyayam, to be known. Jnana yam, to be approached by knowledge. Hridi, in the heart. Sarvasya, of everyone. Of everyone. Vishtitam, situated. Translation. He is the source of light in all luminous objects. He is beyond the darkness of matter and is unmanifested. He is knowledge, he is the object of knowledge, and he is the goal of knowledge. He is situated in everyone's heart. Purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. Prabhupada ki. The Supersoul, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, is the source of light in all luminous objects like the sun, moon, and stars. In the Vedic literatures, we find that in the spiritual kingdom, there is no need of sun or moon, because the effulgence of the Supreme Lord is there. In the material world, the Brahma Jyoti, the Lord's spiritual effulgence, is covered by the Mahatattva, the material elements. Therefore, in the material world, we require the assistance of sun, moon, electricity, etc. for light. But in the spiritual world, Babi, come here. Listen. But in the spiritual world, it is clear, therefore, that his situation is, Krishna. But in the spiritual world, there is no need of such things. It is clearly stated in the Vedic literature that because of his luminous effulgence, everything is illuminated. It is clear, therefore, that his situation is not in this material world. He is situated in the spiritual world, which is far, far away in the spiritual sky. That is also confirmed in the Vedic literature. Aditya Varnam Tamasa Parasat Svetasvatara Upanishad 3.8. He is just like the sun, eternally luminous, but he is far, far beyond the darkness of this material world. His knowledge is transcendental. The Vedic literature confirms that Brahman is concentrated transcendental knowledge. To one who is anxious to be transferred to the spiritual sky, knowledge is given by the Supreme Lord, who is situated in everyone's heart. One Vedic mantra says, Tamha Devam Atma Buddhi Prakasham Mumuksha Vaisharanam Maham Prapadye. One must surrender unto the Supreme Personality of Godhead if he at all wants liberation. As far as the goal of ultimate knowledge is concerned, it is also confirmed in Vedic literature. Tam eva viditvati mrityum eti. Only by knowing him, as far as the goal of ultimate knowledge is concerned, it is also confirmed in Vedic literature. Tam eva vidivati mrityum eti. Only by knowing him can one surpass the boundary of birth and death. He is situated in everyone's heart as the Supreme Controller. The Supreme has legs and hands distributed everywhere, and this cannot be said of the individual soul. Therefore, that there are two knowers of the field of activity, the individual soul and the supersoul, must be admitted. One's hands and legs are distributed locally, but Krishna's hands and legs are distributed everywhere. This is confirmed in the Upanishad Svetasvatara 3.17. Sarvasya Prabham Ishanam Sarvasya Sharanam Brihat. The Supreme Personality of Godhead, the Super Soul, is the Prabhu or Master of all living entities. Therefore, he is the ultimate shelter of all living entities. So there is no denying the fact that the Supreme Super Soul and the individual soul are always different. Om Jnana Timirandasya Jnana Jnana Shalakaya Shakshur Umlitam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. I forgot the rest. Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manobhustam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam. Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yutapadakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sa Gajatam Sahagana Ragunatam Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padam Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishaka Vitamscha Hey Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dina Bandhu Jagat Pate Gopisha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namustate Tapta Kanchana Gourangi Radha Vrindavaneshwari Vishabhanu Sutta Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vanchakapal Shuribhascha Kripa Sindhu Bhaya Vacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Nama Namaha Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadara Shri Advaita Gadadara Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Gita Priya, sit there with Daddy in the back there. Okay, sorry. Okay, this chapter 13 is entitled Nature, the Enjoyer, and Consciousness. Yeah, it's interesting chapter. Thank you for giving me this opportunity to give class and so that I can actually study a bit more about the scriptures. So Krishna in the beginning, Arjuna in the beginning, he's asking a couple of questions to Krishna, and he's asking 6 particular questions. He's asking what is the Kshatriya, the Kshetra, the Kshetrajnam, the Purusha, Prakriti, the Jnayam, and the Jnanam. So if I can say the Purusha and the Prakriti is the material nature and the enjoyer of material nature. And the Kshetra is the field, and the Kshetrajna is the knower of the field. And then Jnanam and Jnayam. So Jnayam is knowledge, and the Jnanyam is the object of knowledge. And then Krishna goes on in the rest of the chapter to start answering these questions from Arjuna. And specifically, text 18, if we just go through it, I like to look up each word and try to absorb into it before I go into understanding what Krishna is saying. When you look at light and everything that is luminous, and you look at the different sources of light, we have, Prabhupada also explains in the purport, he talks about the sun, the moon, the stars, everything that is illuminating is coming from Krishna. He's the source of this illumination. And in our world as well, we have, we don't just have the Supreme Personality of Godhead, because he's beyond this darkness of matter, and he's unmanifested. So he's not within the manifested world, is my understanding of this verse. Because manifested means that it can come into being and it can go out of being. It can be destroyed. So he is in the beyond, he's in the unmanifested area, which is beyond this material world. And then he uses this word knowledge, and the knowledge he's referring to here is transcendental knowledge. Not in there, only mommy speaks in there. So this knowledge that he's talking about is to understand the two knowers. Baby. This knowledge is to understand. Why don't you sit here next to mommy? I'm not going to use the mic, okay? I'm not going to use the mic. Put it here. Yes, let's put it here. You sit next to mommy. Sit here, sit here. Let's look at this book. Let's look at this book. Krishna, baby Krishna. Oh, I'm so sorry. Okay, anyway, sorry. And so he wants us to understand the two knowers of the field of activity. And the field of activity is the body. And the two knowers is the soul, which is within us, and Paramatma, which is also within us. But he also wants us to understand the difference between the soul and the super soul, the Paramatma. And he goes into that. And then he speaks about the object of knowledge and the goal of knowledge. And specifically in this text 18, he's talking about the object of knowledge. And then he goes on to say that he is situated in everyone's heart. You know, Krishna also says that in chapter 15, he says, Sarvasya chaham hridisani veshto matasmita ganam apohanam cha. He is seated in everyone's heart, and from him come remembrance, knowledge, and forgetfulness. So, anyway, so he's the source of this knowledge, and he wants us to understand what is about to unfold in this chapter. From text 14 right up till 18, which is what we're reading, Krishna is talking about the qualities of the super soul, of the Paramatma, to further help us understand what is the difference between soul and Paramatma. So I put it into a little diagram. You know, Paramatma has hands, legs, ears, eyes, and a face, but it's not just in one body, it's everywhere. He's able to manifest that everywhere. He's all-pervading. He's the source of all our senses. He's the master of the modes, yet he is transcendental to the modes. He's also, although he is far, far away, he's also very near because he's in our heart. Then he goes further to explain that anything outside of this knowledge is ignorance. And my question is, you know, we're going to school, we're going to university, and we're learning all this information, and we're getting so much information. So what's the difference? Are we not getting knowledge? Are we not? But this is not spiritual knowledge. In school, we're getting so much information. If we go online, we get so much information. You just put something in Google search, and then you get 1,000 hits. Each one is giving so much information. You know, social media has so much information. People are teaching us so many things. But what's the difference between information and knowledge? So information is changing all the time, you know. Yeah, I mean, even when I was studying medicine, oh my God, I think it's 10 years ago already. Everything that I learned 10 years ago has changed so much. So as a doctor, every year you have to do some refresher course on emergency medicine, you know, to see how to save somebody. Because every year, they discover something new. No, this didn't work, so now we tried this. This works better. So information is always changing. But the knowledge that Krishna wants us to understand is never changing, you know. It's, once you learn it, it's something that is not subject to time. Once you understand what he wants us to understand. And why is knowledge so important? Anybody can think about it. Why does he want us to know about what is matter, what is spirit, and who is the controller of both the spirit and the matter? And how do we understand that the spirit soul is within each one of us? And Krishna also explains in Bhagavad Gita that we can identify the spirit soul by consciousness. So somebody is conscious, they're aware. You look in their eyes and they're aware. They're sitting in front of you, they're looking at you, they're interacting with you. And when I was studying in medicine, a lot of times you work in, where I studied at least, is in South Africa. And I worked in South Africa, and very commonly you get to see people dying, you know. Get to see them leave their body. You see them one moment, they're awake, they're alive, they're talking with you, and then the next moment they're gone. And in Krishna consciousness we say, he or she left his body. Yeah? Because we understand the soul has left the body. The consciousness is not there anymore. And when we look at them, we're like, oh, okay, but is that really so? I had the great unfortunate opportunity to work in a mortuary. If you don't know what a mortuary is, it's where the bodies come to people do an autopsy, You understand this? Autopsy. So they have to check for unnatural causes of death, and they have to dissect or cut the body to see what happened. And many times we had to go there as students to observe. It was mandatory, it was not willing. And most of the morticians, the people who do the autopsy, they're very sinister, and they almost have this inside joke because they know some weird things happen at the mortuary. And when you get there, it's like, a lot of dead bodies. And then you have to observe what they're doing. And many times the eyes start to move, they're blinking, or they turn their head, the bodies, or they get goosebumps on their body, or their hand reaches out and grabs you. It's like really terrifying. I mean, they're there, their body is, sometimes rigor mortis is set in, but they're able to just move their body, or they get these goosebumps on their body, and it's really unnerving. It's like, how is that possible? There's no consciousness there, but it's just the body. You can see there's a difference, there's movement, but you speak to the person, they're not there, they're not alive. You can see something is missing, even though it's moving. So the consciousness, the awareness is when the soul is there, the spirit soul. So Krishna goes on to talk about understanding this, and before he gets to this object of knowledge, he says that we need some good qualities, that when we have some qualities like kindness, cleanliness, there's 20 elements of knowledge, Many of these elements other people also have, that are not devotees, they're not jnanis. So what is the difference between a devotee and a jnani? And Krishna says that the one aspect that a devotee has that a jnani doesn't have is that he has constant and unalloyed devotion to me. So it's unflinching, and this part of the knowledge changes everything. We're not just doing it because it's knowledge, we're doing it because we have love of God. And in spiritual life, when we live in the material world, we have many challenges because Krishna is throwing us challenges, and he wants us to overcome these challenges. And the only way we can overcome it is by understanding what he's teaching us, is by learning the Shastras and by seeing life with something called Shastra Chakshur. Shastra Chakshur means seeing through the eyes of the Shastra. So everywhere we look, we understand it because of what we read and what we have studied. And this is only possible if we're studying and we're transforming our lives by studying what Krishna is teaching us. I looked up what is the definition of knowledge, and it says the information, understanding, and skills that you gain through education or experience. And a lot of times we hear this phrase, knowledge is power. Is this a German thing as well? Do you get this in Germany? Knowledge is power. It's a very common English saying. But it's not actually true, because knowledge is potential power. So you can have lots of knowledge, but you might not use it. Yeah? So you have to have the intelligence on how to use it. We can have lots of information, but we're not using it to transform our lives. So what's the point of it, And a famous, maybe it's not famous, it was a Russian writer, Anton Chekhov. He said, knowledge is of no value unless you put it into practice. So Krishna wants us to, this point he's speaking about, the object of knowledge is for us to transform. And how do we transform? You guys are doing it every day. Most of you have done it from the moment you entered Krishna consciousness. And it's so amazing how big the transformation is from, coming from the outside and becoming a devotee is so big. And one of my mentors, he describes there's 4 stages of transformation, and it's the oldest way of transforming. It's in Vedic literature as well. I mean, they speak about 3, but my mentor, Bhutta Bhavana Prabhu, at the time when I was studying Bhakti Shastri, was teaching us about the 4th stage as well. So the 4 stages I'm sure most of you know it. Shravanam. The second one is Manana. Third one is Nididhyasana. And the fourth one is Vandanam. You know the first two because it's part of the 9 processes of devotional, of bhakti. And Shravanam and Vandanam. Yes, so we know those ones. So I'll just go through it about how we can use this when we read Shastra and how we can use it to transform our lives, to not just read it and then just leave and then, okay, cool, that was, I learned that and that was really nice and powerful, but now we need to use it to transform our lives. So Shravanam. So what is Shravanam? It's hearing, it's listening. And it's not just listening to anything or anyone. It should be listening in association of devotees, and we should listen to someone in authority who is connected to Guru, Sadhu, and Shastra, who is strongly convicted in it, not just... I mean, I was having this conversation with my husband, and he said, yeah, but you can listen to anyone, and you can get the knowledge from there. But there's some Shakti that comes from somebody who understands the knowledge, you know. That's why we should approach the Guru who understands already the absolute truth, because he can impart this knowledge to us. So Shravanam, hearing in association with devotees, intentively and in the mode of humbleness. Krishna says that he can impart this knowledge, this confidential knowledge to Arjuna, both in 7th and 9th chapter. He said because he has this element of humbleness. And we have to, in order for us to learn anything, when we're listening to somebody, we have to have a mode of humbleness. If we think that this person doesn't know anything, they're junior to me, oh, I'm never gonna, what could they possibly know? But if we take a moment, a position of humbleness, we're able to extract what they're saying to us and learn from whatever they're saying. Then the second stage, manana. Okay, so manana is the process of digesting. Okay, I've heard everything, and now I need to digest it, absorb what I really want to use. What is the gaps between what I heard and what is practically happening in my life, and how can I apply it into my life? You know, you're assimilating this knowledge, right? I can give you a practical way of understanding it. Is anyone drives here? Anyone doesn't drive? Driving? Fahrer Schule? Yeah. Driving? Nobody's driving. Yes, okay, you're driving, yes. Devaki, you're driving. So, you know, when you go to the driving school, they give you a lot of information. They tell you have to do this, you have to do that. When you enter the car, you must do this. It's a lot of information, you know. That's Shravanam. You're listening to your teacher, you're reading, whatever. And then you get to manana, you have to digest it. You're like, okay, he's talking about the wheel, he's talking about starting the car, he's looking at all the signs, trying to understand everything and digest what he or she is saying to me. And then the third process is nididhyasana. Now nididhyasana is the practical part. You're practicing what you've heard and what you've digested. Now you're going to get into the car, you're going to start the car, and then you're going to start driving. And the first time you do that, without any guidance or supervision, with only the information that you've gotten and the stuff that you've tried to understand, now when you're driving, the first time it's very nerve-wracking, you know. It's a lot of anxiety and a lot of thoughts that are going in. Okay, I need to do this, and what I need to do now in order to prevent any mistake from happening, the car switching off or rolling away or having an accident. So it's a lot of anxiety the first time you drive. And so this nididhyasana is about practicing and reflecting. Okay, this didn't work now. I need to do this. I need to apply it in a certain way into my driving, or rather into your life. You know, how do we use the philosophy that we just understood or read or heard, and how do we now use it into our lives to transform it, you know? And when you do this, when you apply it into your life, you start to feel the power of the Shastra in your life. You start to look around you and you can see the Shastra everywhere. You know, you feel empowered. You can see, wow, Krishna really was talking about real life stuff. And then you become empowered. Then when that happens, you're driving without even thinking. It's like second nature. You're just going with the flow. Sometimes I drive and I'm like, how did I get home? I don't even remember anything. Because you're so programmed to know what to do when you see the stop street, when you see the red light, the green light. You know how to change the gears so swiftly, how to turn, when to indicate. You're parking in so, like, without even thinking, you know. It's just like flowing. And that's what we want to happen when the Shastra is in our life. When you first started to come to Krishna consciousness, they told you 16 rounds, wake up early, Mangalarti 4:30, no meat eating, no intoxication, no gambling. Oh my God, what the hell? That is way too much stuff for me to do. I've never even woke up before 10 o'clock in my life. How must I wake up at 4:30? Oh my. Right? So all of that stuff takes so much effort, so much anxiety, so much. Like, oh my God, how do I apply this to my life? Okay, what do I need to do? How do I understand? What is Krishna wanting from me? What is my Guru wanting from me? How do I apply it? Practice. Practice and practice. And then you wake up one morning, it's 4. You're chanting around, so easy. Wow, the whole day is just going in smooth regulation, you know. This is before children. And then it's just so practical, and you're like, wow, okay, this is what, now you can start shifting gear, and you go into a place where it's now beyond all these practical things. Now you get to Vandanam, right? You pray to Krishna, you pray, like, please let me transform. Let me apply what you've taught me from the literature. Let me now apply it into my life and let me transform. I don't want to go back to my old habits. I don't want to go back to not being able to drive. Is that possible? Once Krishna has given you this mercy, it's coming down from above and from Guru, and then you get Shakti and you can transform your life. And then when you're driving in Krishna consciousness with this flow and you're just going and you're going at a flow, yeah, but you can become stagnant as well. So this Vandanam and this process, this 4 steps of transformation must go on all the time, you know. We find the next stage and the next stage and the next stage, how to improve our lives. And, you know, when we feel the stagnation, and we know the knowledge is needing to be pushed up to the next level. We need to learn the next thing. Krishna wants us to level up and to transform some more, because it's not just 16 rounds every time, it changes, you know. Krishna wants us to go more and more deeper. You know what, I don't know if there's any questions. I think it's almost the end. So if you have any questions, you can ask me questions. Otherwise, I have some other, I can continue about some other points. If I'm able to even answer anything. Yeah, anybody? Okay, I will tell you more about knowledge then. So, Ramananda's like, Nishingadev's going to sleep, it's over. Okay, I'll just share this one thing I found very interesting about knowledge, you know. Knowledge without character or good character can be very dangerous. So if you give knowledge to the wrong hands, you know, to the wrong people, they can abuse it. And there was a story in the Mahabharat, is Ekalavya. He approached Dronacharya to learn the skills of being, I guess, a Kshatriya. And besides him not coming from the right, I guess, dynasty, Dronacharya refused to teach him. He refused to be his guru. And it was not just because of the wrong dynasty, it was because he didn't have good character. And someone's in the Vedic times, before they allowed you to come to school, they would test your character. And then when they discovered you had good character, then they would present the knowledge to you. You know, then you can come to class and you can understand the knowledge, you can be taught. Because if you have good character, you have all this information, all this knowledge, you're able to decipher how to use it for the better of humanity and not to abuse people who are not so fortunate to know so much, you know. So when we have our spiritual masters come and they give class, you know, they have, besides just having all the knowledge, they've been practicing their whole life, they have so much Shakti because they've been living the Shastra. that when they give class, not only the Shakti comes through, it's because they have wisdom, you know. And they, when they're speaking, they're also speaking for the benefit of all of us, for the whole society, for all of humanity. So we can see that they're using Shastra, the benefit of humanity and society, and therefore they have good character. So first, the character of a person should be tested, but in this day and age, knowledge is available to everybody, and you can see a lot of times it's being abused and almost manipulated to control other people. Okay, I think I will end on a lighter note. I will say something about, have you ever seen a soda bottle? A soda bottle, you know, it has all these little bubbles on the inside of the bottle, and if you shake it, all the bubbles come up, yeah? So when we're transforming our lives, all these little bubbles, you know, we have the top layer of this bottle where the air bubbles come out is our consciousness, and the bubbles in the bottle is our subconscious, but all the bubbles at the bottom is our unconscious. So the unconscious, we're not really accessible to. It's maybe something that comes up when we're really triggered. You know, maybe it's from our past life and it's there in our karmic actions. And when we're triggered or we're pushed, then these bubbles, maybe of anger or frustration, they come up to the surface and we aren't able to control it. And this comes up, you know, from our maybe past life or some childhood trauma or whatever. But what Krishna says that with this knowledge, we are able to transform all these little bubbles that's in our consciousness, our subconscious and our unconscious even. That when we're triggered or pushed into such a point that when the bubbles come to surface, there'll be Shakti bubbles, there'll be happiness of bhakti and yoga. So we have to keep transforming, we have to keep praying, you know, keep this art of vandanam, that when we're shaken, when the bottle's shaken and we're triggered, that we don't respond in a way that's negative. But it's okay. It's okay to display these negative bubbles that are coming out and they're getting released, and then we can offer them to Krishna and say, please change them, transform them. Let me help me transform my life, you know. And then we can have happy bubbles. Okay, Hare Krishna. Thank you for listening. Let me go find my baby.